The New York housing market in 2025 reveals a complex, sweeping downturn rippling across the state, rewriting expectations for buyers, sellers, and investors alike. While New York has always wielded a reputation for resilience and premium value, this year's market recalibration has exposed significant vulnerabilities sparked by higher borrowing costs, record property taxes, surging insurance premiums, especially in zones vulnerable to weather risks, and lasting changes in the way New Yorkers live and work. Mortgage rates hovering around 7% have dramatically reduced the purchasing power of average households, making affordability a top concern across all market segments. Property taxes, already among the highest in the country, have grown as municipalities struggle with mounting budget pressures, fueling anxiety for both new buyers and long-term owners. Today, we'll take a closer look at the 10 New York cities experiencing the sharpest price drops, from upstate stalwarts to bustling boroughs, exploring why these markets have shifted so dramatically and what it all means for those hoping to buy, sell, or simply keep their home in 2025. Number 10. Rochester. The upstate city, long celebrated for its steady affordability and predictable housing trends, has now entered a period of clear and measurable correction after years of modest, incremental gains. The median home price has slipped roughly 9 to 10% year over year, settling near the $230,000 range, a noticeable departure from the pandemic-era frenzy that once defined the local market. During those peak years, historically low mortgage rates, remote work flexibility, and a wave of urban flight created intense competition, often pushing buyers into bidding wars and inflating prices at a pace the region had not seen in decades. But the environment has changed dramatically. Local wages have remained largely flat, unable to keep up with the broader pressures of inflation that continue to squeeze household budgets. Residents are now paying more for essentials such as utilities, groceries, and general home maintenance, eroding real buying power and slowing demand. Where homes once moved in under a month, the average listing now lingers on the market for more than 40 days. Inventory levels, meanwhile, remain elevated as developers attempt to sell units built during the optimistic building boom of the COVID era. Projects that made sense when demand felt endless, but now face a very different reality. Rochester's major employment pillars, particularly healthcare and education, continue to provide some stability, offering a reliable economic foundation, even as growth in the private sector remains sluggish. This lack of robust income expansion limits how aggressively residents can pursue homeownership, contributing to the cautious atmosphere shaping today's market. Number 9. Albany. The state capital's housing market is undergoing a similar, though in many ways more layered, correction that reflects broader economic pressures across upstate New York. Over the past 12 months, median home prices have declined by roughly 9%, a shift that coincides with a significant rise in inventory levels. In fact, the number of available homes is now approaching nearly twice what was typical before the pandemic. A stark indication of how much buyer demand has cooled. Just a few years ago, properties in Albany often lasted no more than 3 weeks on the market, fueled by competitive bidding and a seemingly endless pool of eager buyers. Now, that pace has slowed dramatically. Many homes sit unsold for 45 days or more, prompting sellers to recalibrate their expectations and adopt far more flexible pricing strategies. It's increasingly common to see listings undergo reductions of $30,000 to $50,000 from their initial asking price, sometimes more, simply to attract activity and secure a closing. Compounding these pressures is Albany's rising tax burden, which has become an increasingly influential factor in buyers' decisions. several neighborhoods have seen property tax increases exceeding 10%, and reassessments continue to place upward pressure on annual costs. Adding to the strain, recent FEMA flood map updates have reclassified portions of the city near rivers, creeks, and low-lying zones. Homeowners in these areas are suddenly facing costly new flood insurance requirements, particularly affecting older properties that already require significant maintenance. These dynamics temper local wage growth and suppress the steady influx of middle-income buyers that previously supported the market. In response, developers are pulling back from high-end, speculative, or luxury projects and instead focusing on practical, modestly priced housing, homes that match the financial realities of the current buyer pool. Number 8. Queens. Queens, the most populous and culturally diverse borough of New York City, has become one of the clearest illustrations of a major metropolitan market undergoing a significant retreat. Queens offered strong value in beloved neighborhoods such as Forest Hills, Flushing, Astoria, and Jackson Heights. But over the past year, that long-standing equation has changed dramatically. Home values have fallen by roughly 12%, and price reductions ranging from $50,000 to $80,000 have become almost routine across much of the borough. In the luxury segment, particularly in Long Island City's high-rise condo market, declines have been even more severe, with some flagship developments experiencing drops of 15% and a handful of high-profile units sliding more than 20%. What was once a landscape of bidding wars and sight-unseen offers has shifted into a highly negotiable environment where buyers have more choices and far more leverage. Adding to the strain is the cost of borrowing. Mortgage rates hovering around 7% have dramatically reduced purchasing power, pushing many first-time buyers to the sidelines. For co-op buyers, a major share of the Queens market, the pressure is even greater. Co-op boards have tightened approval requirements, lenders have increased scrutiny, and monthly maintenance fees continue to rise as buildings absorb higher operational, insurance, and staffing costs. Number 7. Yonkers, just north of the Bronx and stretched gracefully along the Hudson River, has shifted dramatically from one of the metro area's hottest commuter suburbs to a market grappling with the aftershocks of changing buyer priorities. During the height of traditional office work, proximity to Manhattan made Yonkers a prime target for buyers who wanted suburban space without sacrificing quick access to city jobs. But the remote work revolution reshaped that equation, with fewer people required to commute daily and many working from home entirely. The premium once attached to Yonkers' commuter convenience has eroded. As a result, the city has experienced a substantial 15 to 20% decline in median home prices compared to recent peaks. This downturn is especially notable given how aggressively developers invested in Yonkers over the past decade. Homes now sit on the market for considerably longer, with average days on market surpassing 90, more than double the pace seen. This extended selling timeline has placed mounting pressure on homeowners, especially those contending with Yonkers' characteristically high property taxes or steep HOA dues attached to newly built communities. Sellers who once relied on bidding wars and quick turnarounds are now making difficult decisions, cutting prices, offering concessions, or covering closing costs to maintain buyer interest. If Yonkers can broaden its appeal and adapt to these new market realities, it may enter a fresh phase of sustainable growth. Number 6. Binghamton. Once celebrated as an unexpected pandemic-era winner thanks to the early remote work boom, is now undergoing a sharp and unmistakable market reversal. During the height of relocation trends, the city attracted out-of-state buyers drawn by low prices, spacious properties, and the promise of a quieter lifestyle. But that surge has since lost momentum. Home values have fallen 10% or more from their recent highs, marking one of the fastest cooldowns among New York's smaller metros, where homes once sold swiftly off the heels of bidding wars and cash offers. They now sit on the market for 2 to 3 months, sometimes longer. This extended market time signals a notable imbalance. Too many homes available, and not enough financially confident buyers to absorb them. A significant factor behind this slowdown is Binghamton's stagnant wage growth. Unlike larger cities benefiting from tech or corporate expansion, Binghamton's income trends have remained largely flat. With inflation continuing to elevate the cost of everyday essentials, many locals simply cannot stretch their budgets toward homeownership, even with declining sale prices. Binghamton is experiencing a sobering reset. Oversupply, softening demand, and financial headwinds are shaping a far more cautious buying environment. Until wage growth strengthens and overall carrying costs stabilize, the market is likely to remain firmly in correction mode, offering buyers more leverage but challenging sellers to compete aggressively for attention. Number 5. Long Island. Long defined by its blend of historic prestige, generational wealth, and some of the highest home values in the country, is now experiencing a downturn as dramatic as it is wide-reaching. Nassau and Suffolk counties, traditionally viewed as the gold standard of suburban aspiration, have seen median home prices retreat by as much as 17% over the past 2 years. This decline marks a major shift for a region where bidding wars, escalation clauses, and sight-unseen offers once dominated the landscape. Sellers, who just a short time ago could confidently expect aggressive offers within days, are now confronting a very different reality. Many sellers face holding periods that stretch months longer than anticipated, all while contending with rising mortgage payments. For those carrying adjustable-rate loans, high tax bills, and the ongoing cost of maintaining large suburban properties. For families needing to relocate quickly, due to job changes, downsizing, or financial strain, this environment is especially challenging. The buyer pool has shrunk as higher interest rates and elevated carrying costs sideline many would-be purchasers, forcing sellers to compete for a smaller group of qualified buyers. Number 4. Buffalo, the city that spent much of the last decade redefining itself through economic revival, urban reinvestment, and a modest yet meaningful population rebound, is now experiencing a noticeable cooling in its once surging housing market. After years of rapid appreciation, fueled by an influx of out-of-state buyers, major redevelopment projects, and renewed pride in the city's neighborhoods, momentum has tapered off. Home prices have slipped by about 10% from their recent peak. Instead of homes selling within days at tens of thousands above asking price, listings are taking longer to attract offers, and sellers are increasingly adjusting expectations set during the boom years. Mortgage rates hovering near 7% further tighten the financial squeeze. This rate environment is particularly impactful in Buffalo, where many first-time buyers operate on tight budgets and where household incomes, though steadily improving, still trail national averages. Buffalo's housing market is not collapsing, it is normalizing. After a period of rapid ascent, the city is settling into a more balanced, slower-paced phase where disciplined buyers are rewarded, and sellers face the challenge of aligning their expectations with today's evolving economic climate. Number 3. Staten Island. Long regarded as New York City's most suburban and family-oriented borough, is now experiencing the steepest price declines of all 5 boroughs. Median home values have fallen by roughly 14%, marking a dramatic reversal for a market that until recently benefited from steady demand driven by residents seeking more space, quieter streets, and a break from the density of the other boroughs. Compounding the issue are new FEMA flood map designations that have expanded the number of homes required to carry flood insurance. Neighborhoods along the East Shore, South Shore, and parts of the North Shore have found themselves newly categorized as high-risk zones. The resulting insurance premiums, often rising by thousands annually, have drastically increased the cost of home ownership for both new buyers and longtime residents. Homes that would have sold quickly during the pandemic boom are now sitting on the market for several months, and sellers are being pushed to adjust expectations. Developers building new communities, especially in areas like Charleston, Bull's Head, and the Annandale Corridor, are offering upfront incentives such as credits toward closing costs, upgraded appliances, or rate buy-down assistance to persuade hesitant buyers. Number 2. Brooklyn. Widely regarded as the cultural heartbeat of New York City and the epicenter of its housing boom throughout the late 2010s and pandemic era, is now undergoing one of the steepest market recalibrations in its modern history. Average home prices are down roughly 18% from their pandemic peak, a dramatic reversal for a borough that not long ago symbolized unstoppable demand, soaring valuations, and intense competition among buyers. Homes that previously would have generated multiple offers within a weekend sit on the market for weeks or even months, often requiring several rounds of reductions to attract serious interest. Mortgage rates hovering near 7% have effectively removed $100,000 or more from what a typical middle or upper middle income family can borrow. This contraction in purchasing power has widened the disconnect between what sellers believe their homes are worth and what buyers can realistically afford. The result is a market defined by negotiation, caution, and tempered expectations rather than urgency. In past cycles, Brooklyn's vibrant energy, food scene, arts culture, and walkability were enough to keep demand high, regardless of price. But in today's high-cost environment, even the borough's strongest attributes are wrestling with economic gravity. And finally, at number 1, Manhattan. Long regarded as the gold standard of American real estate, now sitting at the heart of New York's most dramatic housing correction. Median apartment prices have fallen nearly 20% since 2023, a stunning shift for a borough once synonymous with non-stop appreciation. Luxury condos that once sold within days as global trophies are now lingering on the market for months, many surpassing 100 days unsold as brand-new inventory continues to stack up. The real cost of owning here has become another major barrier. A typical $1 million apartment often demands more than $8,000 per month when mortgage payments, taxes, HOA fees, and utilities are combined, an amount increasingly unsustainable even for high-income buyers. The rental market, long a pillar of Manhattan's demand, is softening as well, with landlords now offering concessions that were nearly unheard of during the previous decade. International buyers, previously a key force stabilizing the luxury sector, have pulled back amid global uncertainty, unfavorable currency exchange rates, and shifting capital priorities. Meanwhile, local policy changes aimed at rent regulation and tenant protections have complicated the math for landlords and investors, making returns less predictable. Despite its world-class culture, iconic skyline, and unmatched business ecosystem, Manhattan is in a moment of reckoning. The borough is struggling to reconcile abundant supply with a buyer pool that has grown more cautious, more cost-conscious, and in some cases, more willing to explore alternatives outside the city. While Manhattan's prestige remains intact, its housing market is being reshaped by a new reality, one where pricing power no longer sits exclusively with the sellers, and demand must be earned rather than assumed. Key drivers behind this transition include a surge in mortgage rates that makes each monthly payment substantially higher, property taxes rising in tandem with municipal needs, and insurance premiums recalibrated for today's climate risks and legal realities. Remote work, shifting lifestyle preferences, and economic uncertainty have tipped the scales, ending nearly a decade of sustained price appreciation and quick sales. For buyers, these corrections open rare opportunities in markets historically closed off by high prices. Yet for sellers, realtors, and investors, adapting to this more balanced environment requires patience, strategy, and an acceptance that post-pandemic exuberance is giving way to careful, data-driven decision-making. As 2025 progresses, New York's property market will remain dynamic and unpredictable, rewarding those nimble enough to navigate its evolving trends. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.